Hey, welcome to an episode of Spill the Beans. Today we're sitting down with Tommy Welch. He's a general contractor, one of the premier general contractors in the Southeast. He owns a company called First Class Painting and Restoration. He's also a real estate investor, owns some properties, and has been doing this for a long time, for 20 years. So I'm gonna ask him a bunch of questions about how this market parallels to what happened in the 2008-2009 market, what he thinks is similar, what he thinks is a little bit different, and how he's looking at it from a tradesman perspective and a service perspective. So I'm excited to sit down with Tommy. I think you're gonna get a ton of value. He's got a coaching mentality and always leads with a lot of value. So let's go and sit down. Tommy, what's up, buddy?
How are you, sir?
Good, man. Good to see you.
You as well.
Dude, so welcome to Spill the Beans. I'm excited to sit down, and you might be the first contractor that I've had. No, I've had Hank Maxwell, a little bit different of a general contractor. Doesn't have the team built out that you have, but and does more like new construction. You're more painting, restoration,
right,
that side of things. So it's like I'm excited to sit down and have a conversation with you because things are changing a lot, right, in the real estate world. That has affected obviously the trades and stuff as well. But the reason I'm excited to sit down with you is because you're not just a tradesman, right? Like you're a business owner and you're a coach on the sports side of things. Sure. And to the kids teams and stuff. And so like, I feel like you have a perspective on things that a lot of other, contractors or general contractors can't speak to. So why don't you share a little bit about your story, dude? How did you get into being in the construction world?
Great question. First, thanks for having me. By the fire, it's fantastic.
Yeah, man. Hey, nice little setting.
So my mom and dad had a painting company. I grew up in the business, and like anybody that grows up in anything, it's the last thing in the world that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Like I legitimately despised painting when I was growing up because I was 9, 10 years old sanding a cabinet.
Yep.
But funny thing happened. I actually went and played baseball at Charleston Southern, got hurt. Make a long story short, I graduate there. My dad calls me one day. He's like, dude, Charleston's the place. If you ever wanted to have your own deal, Charleston is the place. Mm-hmm. So started First Class Painting and Restoration.
Where are you from originally?
I'm originally from Long Beach, California.
Got it.
But I grew up in Sumter, South Carolina. So from coast to coast is what you're looking at right here.
Yeah, those are two very different markets.
I'm a hot mess, but I can meet a friend anywhere, I promise you. So hablo español and hablo inglés muy bueno, okay?
Yeah.
So to make a long story short, graduated college at Charleston, at CSU in 2003 and started First Class Painting and Restoration with my dad almost 20 years ago. What's crazy about that story is about a year into that thing, my dad unexpectedly gets killed in a car accident. So here I am, 21, 22, I just got married, just graduated college, and I've got this brand new baby business called First Class Painting and Restoration that I actually did not want. I hated painting, but I'm good at it. I knew it. So my wife and I are having this come to Jesus meeting one night, and she's like, well, what are we gonna do? I was like, I'm just gonna build the #1 painting company in the Southeast and call it a day. And that's what we've done for 20 years.
That's awesome, man.
That's where I'm at.
Dude, it's awesome. So I don't know if you know, but I had a painting company when I was in college.
Okay. Well,
and so I was one of these college painter things. And so I had a painting company, employed a bunch of my guys, a bunch of my buddies, and ran like 3 or 4 crews of like 3 guys each summer for a couple of years. And we would go out and paint exterior of houses. It's a lot harder to mess up the exterior of a house than it is the interior of the house.
Definitely agree.
So we just stuck to the outsides. And so I have a little bit of experience in the painting world and what that's like. But so, all right, so when you put a plan in place, and that's a big ambition, a year into something, you obviously know it, but like, what does that plan look like? How do you say, I'm gonna build the #1 painting and restoration company in the entire Southeast, and then actually execute on that? Like, what did the game plan look like? Did you just start pounding the pavement and doing the work and trying to build a reputation? Did you actually have a strategy that you were implementing, or what?
So I have a business degree from CSU, which definitely, a lot of people will talk trash about education, but I will say this, I had some good professors that actually had businesses, so that was one of the key things, was just in education. But I actually, true story, the guy's house that I was working on at the time when my dad got killed in a car accident, I'm fresh in business. We're 8 months, 9 months in, was one of the #1 builders in Charleston. It just worked out to where his wife cut my hair in college. So when she found out I was opening a painting company, she said, hey, my husband and I are building our home in Coosaw. Why don't you come give us an estimate? I'm 21 years old. Mm-hmm. So after my dad was killed in our car accident, the gentleman who I work for there took me to the side and mentored me. So I literally had one of the best that took me from 21 years old And it wasn't a step-by-step one-on-one coaching program. It was a legitimate relationship where, hey, I care about you. What can I do to help this kid?
Yep.
He's 50, I'm 20. And that was a huge part of kind of sitting down and mapping out, what is it going to do that makes you different than the 9 other painters that are on this block? Because everybody that has a truck or a ladder or a paintbrush is a painting contractor. You and I can go to a coffee shop and say, hey, who can coach baseball? Everybody will raise their hand. Nobody knows anything about baseball. You can go into a coffee shop and say, hey, who knows how to paint? Everybody's going to raise their hand. Nobody knows anything about painting. So that was a really good epiphany for me to kind of navigate through with, just like you said, well, how are you going to do this? So I have a little bit of a golf background as well, and he kind of utilized that example with me where, hey, we're going to start at the hole and we're going to work our way back to the tee box. What is your ultimate goal of that? And between you and I in the road, that's really what the difference was sitting down and truly determining, what do I want to do? Do I want to be able to control my schedule and have my own time and actually know who my wife is and know who my kids are? And I knew without a shadow of a doubt that was going to have to require a business. So I was going to have to become a business and not a self-employed painter. Two complete different mindsets.
Big time.
Two complete mindsets.
I want to spend some time on that because, most people in the trades are really good at swinging a hammer or doing that activity. They understand how to lay foundation or how to, lay bricks or how to put down flooring or how to paint or how to frame. But dude, they don't know how to balance a checkbook. They don't know how to market themselves. They don't know how to manage employees and staffing and expectations. And so, dude, this has been a recurring theme in my career is like, I find a good contractor who's really good at doing the trade. And then I'm like, awesome, I'll keep you busy forever. And I put all my work on them. And then they implode because they don't know how to run a business.
Correct.
So, I mean, that's obviously the differentiator. Like, to be able to find somebody who's, and then I know people who are really good business people, really good at just prospecting and sales, but they don't know anything about the trade, so it's a shit product, And it's like, to find someone who understands, and I think this is the key to really any business, right? Like, I understand really well how to go and buy investment real estate, and I understand business, right? So no matter what your widget is, no matter what your product is, no matter what your service is, if you understand that really, really well, and then you also understand business, you can be lethal, right? And that's who I think usually rises to the top. And you've done a great job. You understand the trades, you understand the business element, and I think that's where a lot of businesses, tradesmen, and people who have, skill sets fall apart. You see it with doctors. You 100%. See it with dentists. You see 100%. It with, they're really good at doing the activity, but they're not good at running an actual business. So what did that look like?
Systems. At the end of the day, I think if there's one word that you can sum that up is you've got to take the pain point, because it is painful. And when I say systems, I don't just mean a really nice CRM. I mean a nice system on how you do all of it. How do you hire somebody? How do you fire somebody? What is our to-do? What is our scope of work?
But dude, everybody talks about systems. What does that even mean? Like, if there's somebody watching this who is just trying to, they're a contractor, they have some service business, and they're trying to just generate revenue and trying to keep their head above water, how do you even put that kind of stuff in place?
I think if you were to, it's a cookbook. You need to sit down and write yourself a cookbook. And it can be, whether you're a one-man show or a 10-man show, you have to sit down and truly write the ingredients of what cake are you trying to bake. And then you can figure out the most efficient way to bake that cake. If I know that it takes 2 eggs and I know that I'm going to need 200 eggs for that month, well, then I need to find somebody who can supply me 200 eggs. But if I only need 20 eggs, I don't need the same supplier for 200 eggs. I'm using that as a very, very basic example, but all systems is your cookbook on how you want to bake your cake. And whatever that looks like, that's your system.
Well, I think it kind of gives you a perspective, right? You got to step back and realize just doing that activity and working in your business is not what you, as a business owner, it's not what you need to be doing all day, every single day. You got to take time. And I started doing this like on Friday mornings. I would take a couple hours and work on my business instead of in my business.
Right.
And I would start asking these questions. I'd start thinking about, all right, what's the process that I go through step by step if I was going to train somebody on how to do acquisitions or how to prospect for private money or how to sell or how to renovate or like what does that process look like? And I would just put it on paper of a simple checklist or a simple process map. And that to me was the initial stepping stone into getting into systems, right? It's like, hey, if I need somebody to go and do an inspection on a house, here's the checklist, and let me just create the checklist, and then it's hard to screw this up. You know, I can send anybody over there who can look at windows, who can look at a roof, and they can circle a number between 1 to 10 of how good it looked or what kind of condition it's in. And at least that way, it starts creating a little bit of a system, and then you can continuously refine it. The other thing for me was a process map.
Okay.
You know, here's step 1. If this, then that, right?
Right.
All right, here's step 2. If this, then that. It's kind of just following that little chart of boxes with arrows. Yes, go this way. No, go this way. And for me, that's what like processes meant. And then we started developing that out even further into employee handbooks and all that kind of stuff.
I think the other thing that I would add on that, and you said it like 10 times in that statement, is the who. See, I'm not the who for everything.
Yeah.
And so many of us will get wrapped up into where, especially if you're a self-employed tradesperson, like you might be the best painter on your team, that's great. The challenge that you have, well, now your team is limited to just that best painter. And I mean that with everything. So you got to have the ability to sit down and identify, and don't get me wrong, you can't start off by just having a vendor for every single thing that you do, but can you? And that to me has really been where
it's a good question, man.
You know, I mean, that's where we've been. That's where we're really at right now.
Instead of me implementing something, who do I know who can implement that? Instead of me adding it to my plate, which is already full, which I don't have enough time in a day for, who can I hire? Who can I partner with? Who can I joint venture with to go and implement that side of the business that then they can earn and I can earn collectively, and it supports both businesses?
I think it's probably the funnest part of what I do now is that part, because I don't look at our team members, whether they're a W-2 staff member or they're a 1099 contractor or they're a vendor like Tim Bratz or whomever it may be. Like, I look at them and I only deal with the folks that are not just like-minded, but do they have high integrity and character that identify with First Class Painting and Restoration? Are they a guy that represents the brand? Are they a gal that represents the brand that I've taken 20 years that everybody in Charleston knows? Do they do that?
Yep.
I think if you can get you a good list of who's, and I mean that in your accounting, and I mean that in your marketing, and I mean that in your whatever, your shoes that you use for your team, whatever your vendor is, if they're like-minded and they're partnered in with you and they have that concept of they're part of your team, it really becomes a lot more fun, because now your plate can get fuller because you have a lot more competent folks handling your plate.
Dude, I couldn't agree with you more, man. I had somebody who was actually, we tried to bring in-house construction about a year ago, and this person just, they were very skilled, they've been in the business for 35, 40 years, something like that, and had workers that they controlled, had all this other stuff in place. And you know what they ended up doing? Like the core values didn't align. The integrity didn't align. And it ended up putting us in this position where it was like a cancer in the organization. Even though they were good at their job, for the most part, they were really bad with everybody else, and it hurt everybody else's performance because of that one person. So as decent of a job that they were doing, it hurt everybody else's performance. So overall, the business didn't have more success. So we ended up having to cut that cancer out, get rid of it, in order to continue growing. And so right now, man, I think the most important thing as we hire people is, do they fit the culture?
100%.
Do they fit the integrity? Do they fit the core values of the organization? 100%. And not just internally, dude, people that were private money investors. Dude, if they're an asshole, I don't want them I don't want to borrow their money. If it's somebody that we're joint venturing with and we don't see eye to eye, I'm not going to partner. I don't care how good the deal is.
Right.
I don't need that in my life.
Right.
You know, and I think that's such a key point, especially when you're starting to build the business and you want it so bad to grow, and then all of a sudden you're like, I really want to take down this deal. I really want to, grow my business. It's really, really hard. But if you don't have those core values in place to give you kind of a compass to navigate how you're going to operate, you can make some really bad decisions.
And unfortunately, the biggest thing the biggest heartburn that I get is making sure the folks that we have on our team, whether they are my vendor or whether they are my actual staff member or myself, when they leave, is my client still have the vested interest and, most importantly, the accountability and the feeling they have with me.
Yep.
And if they do, then I know I've done a really good job on the who.
Yeah,
if
great
they
point.
don't, then I know that without a shadow of a doubt, you've got a very, very fine timeline to where you will lose that. And if you lose that ultimate trust of the client, customer, we call them family members, it's over, because you can't get it back.
Yep.
As much as you want to, you can't. So.
Yep. So let's talk about how you've branded that, right? Because people see your trucks going around and they see the the construction yellow, construction green, or the bright pink, and they know it's you, right? And they right away, dude, I know that's Tommy, I know that's First Class, and it takes a long time to build that. But you've obsessed over that.
I have.
You've obsessed over making sure that everybody's on your team, everything's branded similarly. You've put that plan in place. Talk about, what did that process look like? What did it turn into? Did it just kind of fall into this, and this is like, let's just lean into it harder? Or did you have an actual plan in place that you said, this is what I want it to turn into, here's what the destination is, here's where the hole is, and then we'll backtrack to the tee box?
That's a great point. I think at the end of the day, it first starts with just the genuineness of who you are. Everybody that knows Coach Tommy or me knows that super loud, super bright, super fun. So it's a genuine part of who I am to wear neon.
Yep.
I'm not saying that it's for everybody, it's who I am.
Yeah.
So when you're doing a branding or you're building whatever your company is or whatever your team is, it has to be genuine to who you are.
Agreed.
Because then it's not even work.
Yep.
Like, it's not odd for me to put on a yellow shirt.
Yep.
But it would be very odd we have people in our life that you know that if they were hot pink and they came in, it would be odd for you to be like, dude, I've never.
Yeah.
For me, if I walked in and I didn't wear it, you'd be like, oh my God, what is wrong with
Something's
Tommy
wrong.
today?
What's
Something's
up,
wrong.
buddy? Yeah.
So I think the first thing about branding is it has to be genuine to who you are and what
Agreed.
you're trying to do.
That's a great
if
point.
you do that, you will be sold out to it. And there is no shortcut to building a brand. You cannot build a brand if you're not sold out to the brand. You can't. Like, it's physically impossible because people it will not last.
Yeah. They'll see right through it, man.
It's all sizzle, no steak,
yeah.
right? It's all sizzle, it's no steak. For me, I wanted to make sure that our branding is all steak and the sizzle's the fun part of it. And I think if you take that mentality to it, you building whatever that means and whatever that looks like for you will make you very excited getting up in the morning knowing that whatever that looks like, you're happy to do so. That's what you need to go through what I call the grit, the grind, and the guts tour, because that's what you're doing. If you're choosing to go on your own and build a business, or you want to be whatever it is that you want to have, it's going to require grit, it's going to require grind, and it's going to require guts. And if you don't have those three things, you might as well find something else to go to, because that's what it's going to take.
Yeah. I love it, man. I like that. 3 Gs.
The 3 Gs.
So you're naturally a coach. You coach the kids' sports teams, and you're out there taking complex ideas, simplifying them, taking things, creating analogies. How has that impacted your business and how you've grown the team?
So it's very vertical. I think in business for me, it's very vertical to what I do. So for instance, if you were to see us play on a Saturday or Sunday and we're somewhere at Vanderbilt University or wherever my guys and gals are playing at that time, they're going to have uniforms on that are as bright and as neon as First Class Painting Restoration. It's done by design. Yes, we are a quote-unquote sponsor of that team, but more importantly, it's still my brand that's on the baseball field. That is the biggest thing for me, is when I bring our kiddos in, or we bring, our employees in that are going to be painting, right off the rip, I need them to understand that this is the most different that you will ever feel, but it's also the funnest that you'll ever feel. I coach baseball. Baseball is probably by far, and I'm biased, but one of the hardest games in the world to play, especially at the next level, because of the amount of failure that you have to go through is unparalleled to any other sport, if that makes sense. If you're a free throw thrower and you shoot 3 out of 10 and you're not a successful basketball player. In baseball, if you have 3 hits out of 10, you're a Hall of Famer. No other sport's like that. I think,
and I don't think people realize how mental baseball is either. It
100%.
is far more of a mental game
100%.
than it is a physical game. Like, what soccer's a very actually physical game, but, or I'm sorry, a very mental game also. But you can kind of get past the mental elements if you're very skilled in some of these other sports. Baseball, you got to have the mental capacity
100%.
of understanding the ball comes to me and I field it, and there's somebody on second base. Well, how do I make sure that run doesn't score and still get the out? And like, where am I going? And it's always, every single time, playing out all these different scenarios in your mind.
100%. Another example I like to use all the time is you get a great hitter that's in the box. He swings and misses, hits a dribbler, hits off the top of the bat. It goes right past the pitcher. He runs through first base. That's considered a single hit, and he is 1 for 1. That same exact hitter can come up and next at bat and hit an absolute missile to shortstop. Shortstop dives, catches it. He's now 1 for 2. He has to come in the dugout and feel better about the dribbler than he does the missile that he hit to shortstop. You know what I mean? Like,
that's tough.
That's the mental stuff that I love so much about how you can implement sports with business, because business is the same exact way. You can spend 6 weeks getting the greatest letter of intent, all of your package for this investor, and for whatever the reason, he doesn't do it. And then the very following week, you can see Tommy walking through a hotel lobby with a cup of coffee, and he has a property that he needs to sell, and all of a sudden you've got that, and you did nothing to do it. Are you supposed to feel better about that deal than you are the one that you spent 6 weeks preparing for? It's very similar in the mentality of, I love the fact of how I can integrate both coaching on the baseball field and in our business world. And for me, it's just very lateral. It allows me, again, what I do on Monday is what I do on Sunday. I don't have to change them.
And everybody understands analogies that go to sports, and they can, hey, home runs don't win ball games. Base hit after
100%.
base hit after base hit after base hit after base hit. And having a long-term mentality in sports versus a short-term, like, what are you doing right now? Like, listen, it's the ratio that appears over time, right? Like, the only
100%.
reason that you get the easy walking through the hotel lobby deals because you bumped into somebody is because you've continuously built a brand for the past 20 years. And, like, conveying a lot of that stuff is, dude, it's not just sports lessons, but it's business lessons and it's life lessons,
100%.
And it's fun to create those analogies. So what have you seen over the past, and you've been in business for 20 years, so you saw what happened in 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and how has what you've seen over the past 2 years, and really the past 3 to 6 months, changed, paralleled to things that have happened in the past, or totally different? And how have the trades and that world changed as these interest rates started to rise?
I think it's definitely been, I think we can both agree that we'll call the last 2 years through the COVID deal was absolutely unbelievable. Like, It was absolutely off the Richter scale of anything and everything that I've ever seen. As far
truly unbelievable.
like,
truly, like, doesn't make sense.
You knew this is farce,
Even
right?
though you're in the middle of
yeah.
it. People didn't know it last time, right?
It was very, and it was in so many different elements of business, but in our business in particular, it was definitely, you knew something was farce. Now, and I will say just within the last 90 days to 100 and 120 days, so 3 to 4 months of where we are in 2022, heading into 2023, there are what I like to call rhythms that you can feel that are different. And what I mean by that is interest rates are one thing that people constantly always talk about, but there's so much that goes with that. There's, I was going to do a remodel, but now I'm going to sit tight on the remodel. I was going to build a cabin. Well, now I really need to sit tight on the cabin, right? Those are words that I have not heard since 2007. 2007, 2008, people coming out of that, it was the same exact thing where it was everything just came to an immediate, like, whoa. And I feel like if I were to give you a temperature control of where we're at, I feel like there are definitely a little bit of the pulling on the reins of the horse per se, whereas everybody has been in 120 miles an hour for the last 2 years.
Yep.
That's kind of where I see, and trades in general, one of my automatic temperature controls that we can check is how much do we get inquired about hiring? Because it doesn't, I'm not trying to boast, but when
meaning people who want to come and work for you?
Whoever want to come and work. When people want to work for First Class, a painting company, 2007, 2008, you had 30, 45 people texting you, emailing you a week on, hey, I need a paint job. That
after the market
completely completely changed. That went away for a very, and everybody sees it. In any trade that you're at right now, I don't care whether you need a toilet fixture, you need painting for the last 3 or 4 years, good luck, right? At the end of the day, good luck. I have had probably 10 emails in 2 weeks about painters looking for work.
Really?
So.
And what I've seen, man, is the contractors, dude, I've seen this with commercial real estate agents. I've seen it with residential real estate agents. I've seen it with some of the contractors. It almost became like a level of arrogance in the, hey, I'm more needed, right? And so I'm going to dictate the pricing, I'm going to dictate the schedule, I'm going to dictate all this stuff. And the ones who had not built up that level of arrogance, to me, are the ones who are still having runway, still have plenty of business, still have plenty of work to keep going. And the ones who almost abuse the relationships are now, well, what about me? What about, do you have any more work for me? Well, dude, you took advantage of me, right? And now I see things changing in a big way. with a lot of the trades, with a lot of the brokers
Sure.
who wouldn't even call us back, who had this level of, and now they're coming back begging us to re-offer on one of these properties. Are you seeing that happen in the
100%,
trades?
125%.
Yeah.
And it will be very interesting, I think, over the next 12 to 24 months what that looks like. I
Yeah.
think it'll be and I think at the end of the day, if you were ever needing to increase or if you wanted to change the dynamic of your team, if you're a tradesperson in particular, you're probably at a really good opportunity to do so.
Dude, I love that you said that. I literally posted yesterday about the change in the job market right now, and the post was more about like work from home
Sure.
type of roles, and out of all job applicants for jobs right now, this data just came out from one of the government sources, but of all, or it was not the government source, the I don't know, the online, people, Indeed and one of those,
yeah.
right? And so out of all the job applicants, 50% of all applicants applied for work from home jobs. Work from home jobs are less than 15% of all job offerings. It's fascinating to see how much demand there is for certain types of work, and how much more demand has been created from before it was people begging to find people to work for
Sure.
them, and now it's kind of tides are changing. Mortgages are laying off a lot of people right now because nobody's refinancing.
Right.
Nobody's buying, right? The tech industry valuations have just absolutely cratered in the
Sure.
past 12 months to the point where they're laying off hundreds of thousands of employees across some of these organizations. So it's like you're seeing this a little bit more, and the point of my post was don't waste a good recession, right? As things are dialing back, there's going to be an opportunity to build out your team with some serious A players that you couldn't attract over the past 2 years.
1,000%.
And because of that, it's going to put you in a position to really set up for success moving forward, because you can attract these people, with a long-term mindset, with what you have going on, and now's the time to bring them into your business.
I love it. I think, and that's one of the beautiful things about being an entrepreneur and having that mindset of seeing what I call, where people see crap, I see crap opportunity. That kind of
I like
mindset.
that.
It's so true. So, for instance, if you knew for a fact that you were looking to increase your workflow, I'm a painting company and I want more work. All I'd have to do is get on Indeed and find somebody who's willing to work from home who will simply sit on the phone then for me and make phone calls of, hey, Tim, this is Martha from First Class Painting and Restoration.
Yeah.
Love to tell you about some specials that we have running about painting right now. It sounds silly, but you land 1 out of 40 of those phone calls, you are now changing your workflow by just being creative of looking at a crappy situation where Indeed only has 15% of job applications that they can accept for home.
Where's the opportunity in
I
this?
get one. You know what I mean? So
I love that. And I think a lot of people, like, well, the economy's changing and the market's changing, and like I need to scale back on my spend. The reality is a good employee, if screened properly, if trained properly, if measured performance properly, is an asset, right? It creates a return on investment. You hire that Martha to make those phone calls, and you might be paying her $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year. She gets on the phone and sells you $2 million worth of paint jobs or construction jobs. Is that an ROI or is that an expense to your business? That's a return on investment,
100%.
right? There's a yield on that, and it helps create more predictability and more revenue in this downturn that we're potentially going into right now. Instead of being an expense for your business. So again, there's opportunity and obstacles in everything
100%.
that's happening. It's like, and people think it happens to them. No, it's your choice. Are you going to see it as an opportunity, as you just did, or as an obstacle, as the newspapers and the advertisements are painting it out to be? And that's going to scare the masses, which creates an opportunity for opportunists and
Right.
entrepreneurs like us as things do change.
I think, and to add on that, I think that's what the beautiful part of having like coaching and having folks that are in your life, and they could be one of those who's, that allow you to see the perspective difference.
Yeah.
And that perspective difference is what the difference between arrogance and actually intelligence really is, right? Is having somebody saying, hey, I know you see it like this, but let me show you what you really can see it for somebody that's a little bit further down the road, that's done this a little bit longer than you have,
Yep.
on a little bit different scale. That is, I don't even know if you can put a price tag on that.
Yeah,
I really don't. You
Yeah,
know?
man. I love it. I love it. So what are you seeing for the next 12 months? Like what are your plans? What are your ambitions? What are your goals with First Class and with your construction?
I think the first and foremost is we're always looking at ways that we can shape and sharpen and add value to the product that we're already doing. I actually, I'm a huge reader. You got to be if you want to be a leader, right? So I just got done reading this book called Unreasonable Hospitality. If you haven't read that book, you need to get it. Unreasonable Hospitality. It's more or less designed for the hospitality/restaurant world, but I'm in the hospitality business. I just happen to have a paintbrush, right? I just happen to have a paintbrush. So for me, it's trying to figure out ways that we can implement intent into our business that we're already doing that make me stand above, okay, well, things are a little bit tight, but I really need my house painted. What can I do as First Class Painting and Restoration to do a really good job to make that decision easier for you? Is it offer in-house financing? Is it a better bang for your buck? Is it a great hospitality experience where you just literally want my guys to show up because they're such a blessing to you? You're like, I don't care. I just want Tommy's team here. Those are the first thing that I want to do is make sure that we're ship shape for 2023. That's my first thing. Second thing is the things that I'm speaking of right now, I would love to get to the point to where we have a platform to do so with other contractors. So a coaching platform.
Yeah.
That way I can work with the painter that's in New Mexico that's got this bright ambition and this crazy idea that he wants to start a painting or modeling company or what have you. I want to be able to help that dude. Right now I can't do that. I think that would be a great ambition for us.
Oh my gosh, man. I feel like there's such a need for that right now too. Like in order to have can you imagine being a contractor and not knowing who to talk? Because all the contractors see other contractors as competition.
100%.
It's not a very collaborative space or industry. And so to be able to offer something that's a Facebook group where the contractors can get together and just talk about how to scale the business, how to be a better business person in the trades, and how to support each other and how to gain access to capital or financing or lines of credit or get creative on in-house financing in order to sell more jobs. Like, dude, I think that's such a powerful space. And for somebody to come in who understands the coaching element, who understands the business, who understands the trades, to come in and create something like that, man, I think it would absolutely crush. I think it's a phenomenal idea, and I think there's opportunity from your standpoint. Dude, there's a lot of businesses of, maybe people our parents' age who are looking to retire, who want to get out of these trades, who want to get out of the business that they've built, and who's going to buy it, right? They're just going to let it go. They have a client list. They have staff. They might have opportunities where you can come in and buy that or consolidate or grow the business some way or another. I think there's some serious opportunities there that you could create too.
I think it's remarkable, and that's kind of the biggest thing is we want to make sure that we're, you're only here for a short period of time, so I want to do the most I possibly can while I'm here. You know what I mean? That's a big conviction on me is to help as much people as we can, and heaven forbid if that means that we grow part of it. I think that's kind of my duty to do so.
I love it.
So, and then last but not least is our property. So we have First Class Properties. It's a new venture that we took on about 2 years ago. We have short-term rentals, and we basically make them experience properties. So we actually can buy a property on our own. We can fix it up the way that we do. We can utilize our in-house designer and all the faces that everybody knows with First Class Painting and Restoration, and really kind of put a touch on it. So when Tim goes to Gatlinburg and he goes into a cabin that's done by First Class, he already has an expectation of what he's receiving, and I think that we kind of like to do that a little bit more.
Yeah, I love that. And are most of your properties, I mean, you have some stuff in eastern Tennessee, western North Carolina, that area of the Smokies, and then down in Hilton Head?
Hilton Head, yep. We have 2 in Hilton Head. We have 1 in the Smokies, and hopefully 1, I think, in the Brevard, North Carolina area is kind of what we're looking at.
Yeah, all good areas, man. No, I think that's a cool, kind of again, your branding piece. They're coming in, they know what to expect. If you go to I don't know, I'm thinking McDonald's, but I don't want to liken your brand to McDonald's.
Sure.
So,
Chip and Joanna Gaines, right? Like they have a Magnolia brand.
Very predictable, no matter which property you're going into. You know what it's like. You know what the quality is going to be.
Sure.
You know what the finishes are going to look like, and you know what the amenities in the home are going to be like as well.
And it gives us. It sounds silly, but it also gives us a really unique apprenticeship opportunity. Because what better way than to take a guy or a gal that wants to learn the trade and put them on a property that I own, that I can control, that heaven forbid if Tim is 19 and he messes up a piece of LVP flooring when he's installing it, it's my property. You know what I mean? Like, what better way in the world than to
good
have
training,
a true, legitimate apprenticeship training opportunity than our own?
Yeah.
So it provides safety, it provides comfort, but most importantly, coachability. I just want our guys and gals to be really well coached. I want them to feel better about themselves when they leave, whether they're here for a year or 10 years or 100 years. I hope they're here forever. But at the end of the day, I just want to make sure they're better when they leave.
So what's the goal on the investment side? Like how many properties you want to pick up?
So our goal is to have 10. I'd love to have 10 by the end of
short-term rentals.
All short-term rentals.
And you
by
have
the end
three
of,
now?
I have 3 now. So by the end of 2023, I'd like to have 10 legitimate income-producing short-term rentals that are first-class branded, systemized, and it gives us the ability to say, hey, that was real, that was fun. Either it's real fun, we keep doing it, or at the end of the day, we have 10 cash flow producing, entities that allow us to, whether it be through apprenticeship that we still use them, or just to be able to bless families and friends that we have on our own team.
Yep.
Like right now, I can literally send a painter of mine and his wife to Hilton Head at a condo that we own because we have it. You know what I mean? Like that's a really cool thing for us. So I'd like to continue that.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome, dude. This has been so valuable. Tons of great insights. Really appreciate you being here, man. I'm excited to see what happens over the next 12 months for you.
Absolutely.
If there's any way that I can be of value, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Appreciate you big time, man.
Hey, hope you guys got a ton of value out of that. Appreciate you watching. And give me your biggest takeaway in the comments below. Please give me a like on the video and please subscribe to the channel. We're always trying to deliver as much value as we can with these Spill the Beans episodes. So if there's anything that you have questions about or any entrepreneur that you want to see me sit down with and ask questions to, please don't hesitate to let me know. Post it in the comments section and we'll make sure we get them on here. But make sure you're connected with Tommy. Make sure that you're following him on social media. He's always providing value and talking about the entrepreneurial side of things, the trade side of things, the coaching side of things, and just a great overall guy. So appreciate you guys tuning in. Until next time, I'll see you on Spill the Beans.